Hi, welcome to this week's chat. I think Matteo wanted to start it with HSBC and its tax avoidance. Was it tax avoidance?
Well, I mean, manipulation of money, tax avoidance, moving money to random Swiss bank accounts, call it what you will, it is what it is. And I mean, it's something that I don't see why people are shocked about it because it's something that the Swiss have never hid from. The Swiss have always been secretive about their banking system. They've always used that as a leverage to keep their country in peace. I mean, the really reason why Switzerland's never been to war in recent years is because it controls everyone's money. And you don't go to war with a country that has all your finances because it can ruin you. Um, it's something that isn't something that, to me, it's not shocking. It's just a revelation and a assurance that what we've all speculated is happening and is true. And this idea of tax avoidance hasn't been addressed, is a huge issue. Our parties have been denying that it's been a huge issue for years. They've always been saying that it's the benefit system and benefits round that we've got to tackle, and this has just proven that that is completely utter rubbish. That what we need to tackle are these tax avoiders. Yes, people that are on benefits that shouldn't be on benefits, we should probably deal with eventually. But that's a small problem compared to the slightly bigger issue of the fact that most of our money that should be going to the people is being siphoned off to random countries for the benefit of people that make millions anyway.
Well, I've always thought that, well, they fund everything, don't they? Wars, banks, the drug cartel. But you kind of see the difference. Like in, we were talking about it the other day, in Colorado, when they legalized weed,
Mm.
the banks refused to take the money off the businesses that had sold it, saying it was drug money. So people were ending up with, you know, millions around their house because they really made a lot of money that the first month. Um, so it's like this double standard that if you're a drug cartel and we're talking billions, we'll let your money come through. But if you're a little cafe owner in Colorado, we ain't touching your money. It's not big enough. And it's dirty money in a league where it's been legalized and it's legal money. It just seems to me like that's the thing with banks, isn't it? You know, if I don't pay my taxes, I'm going to have then someone come down on me. But if Google or Starbucks has been running a charity for God knows how many years, not making any profit, doing it out of the goodness of their own heart, that's fine. You know, we can't avoid tax. It's taken off our money before it even gets in our hands. You know, our employers make sure of that.
Hmm. I mean, it's what they always say about the middle class. You know, it's this problem of and anybody that says that a class system doesn't exist anymore is foolish. I admire is because you've got a class system and it's quite simple. I think to divide in the sense that you've got the people that are at the sort of the very bottom rungs of society and the ones that are potentially on benefits, the one that have those things. So they don't have money to give in tax. You know, they effectively need assistance from the state. Then you've got the jet set who can easily pay but can also easily avoid it because they have millions and billions. And then you've got that middle group in society where the majority of people fall into, that middle income family business where, they have a car, they have a house, maybe they have two cars, but they live decently. So they've got enough money to live, but they haven't got enough money to sort of travel every time or whatever else. They still need to save. The trouble is that the taxation and stuff in this country is so high for those people, because for the government to survive, they need to trap and take as much money from the middle class as they possibly can, because they refuse to go for the people that should be paying the majority, which are the very, very rich in society. And I think you got the problem of where the middle class people feel squeezed out because they make enough money to pay tax, but not enough to escape. So even if they wanted to avoid it, they couldn't because they're not in a position to. It's not just everybody that can pick up their assets and leave and go somewhere else. It doesn't work like that. You need to have a lot of money in legal costs and all the rest of it to be able to do something like that. So for the majority of people, they can't do that, and they get rinsed that you can't imagine by the taxpayer because the government needs to do that because they refuse to tackle the majority of the problem. Those people at the top.
But if you look at like the benefits system, and you can say like, oh, certain people who don't deserve it or things like that. But if you look at, say, like a single mother or even a couple, right? Often they could both go out to work and still be on the same as somebody on benefits. You know, and that's a disgusting state for the country to be in. And why would any parent in their right mind rather give up the time with their kids and being a parent in return for exactly the same, working 40 hours a week. Two people working 40 hours a week, never seeing each other. You know, you can understand where they say, well, it's not worth it.
Mm.
You know, whether you like that attitude or not, you can understand where it comes from. And I think Childline today released a thing saying that anxiety and suicide and thoughts of self-harm was up 30-something% in young people. And I have to look at it and think, maybe both parents working isn't in the best interest of the children. Anyone who works taking children away from parents will tell you that there is, you know, a lot of separation anxieties and things like that. Studies show that children who are breastfed tend to do better, and children that are breastfed tend to be a lot more closely bonded, you know, with their parents, because a lot of them are more natural and, you know, hippie-ish, if you like, compared to, you know, people that automatically reach for the bottle. So maybe we have to face the facts that both parents working is maybe not in the best interest of the children and their mental welfare long term.
I mean, the problem is that. Go on, sorry.
It's not just like for the child's welfare, because when I was younger, my mum was single at the time, and she was going out to work from like 6 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. I was just left on my own, like I'm like a 13, 14-year-old child, and I had no one to supervise me. You know what I mean? So my mum was a single parent, having to go out working 40 hours a week. It wasn't good for me because I had no supervision. So, and like as a boy, like, you know what I mean? That's not good.
Getting into all sorts,
yeah, I did get up to all sorts. I don't regret it though.
Well, that's the other, you know, it used to be a thing in the old days, you know, latch street kids, but now it's a lot more acceptable. Because after a certain age, you don't have to pay for childcare, and childcare is such an expense that comes out your wage. You can see why they just let them go home.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not saying if two parents both want to work, they shouldn't be allowed to. I'm just saying that maybe we should have a system that allows a parent to stay at home if they choose to.
Mm. I mean, the problem.
But that would mean a livable wage.
I mean, I think the problem here is that for whatever reason, I mean, if you look at it in the way of working, people work more now than they've ever worked. You know,
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, well, that's because of society. That's because of technology." And to me, that doesn't make sense, because technology should make life easier, not harder. And I think
you're right.
And I think the problem here is that it's not. I mean, we're blaming everything on technology or something else, or society progressing. I think that's all rubbish. The point, if you look at, for example, the medieval ages, for lack of a better word, during that historical period, people generally in England work, I think it was 3 to 4 days a week.
They work 14 hours, 14 weeks a year, wasn't it? Was it 14 weeks a year?
Well, the weeks that changed depending on if you worked in towns or if you were working in farms, because of the seasons. But for the reason why I mention that is because they had more work to do then, because they didn't have the technology we have now, and yet they work less. The fact is, on top of that, we have now got billions of human beings more on the planet. You know, we could technically cut everyone's wages by half. That would mean that we'd have to employ a load more workers, which we could. The businesses wouldn't spend more. The trouble with that, of course, is because living standards are so expensive, is that nobody will be able to live on just 3 days a week. The point is that, for me, the problem here is that corporations are utterly taking advantage of the fact that they can manipulate the market to such an extent, forcing us to work longer. Because if we thought about it carefully, if you looked at the market the way it is, and the amount of people that are around, you could actually have parents working 3 days a week, the rest of the time they're with their child, or a single parent home a single income home where one person is working 3 days a week, if that's what they want, mother or father, doesn't matter. The other person stays at home. you could technically still have the same amount of production than if people worked like now they're doing, Monday to Saturday, even Sunday sometimes. Because the amount of human beings that there are in Britain, or in the world for that matter.
On the point of technology, about, you know, like I've always thought about this. You know, people are always scared about like machines taking jobs. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing whatsoever. At the moment, it is a bad thing because obviously you've got the corporations that hoard all the wealth. So if they employ a machine but they don't have to pay, it will put people out of jobs. But obviously, in the new paradigm, machines will play a big part in providing for us, you know, making the stuff for us. Because then it would free up human hours for us to be able to focus on more important things. Like, machines would help us a lot. Like our automated machines, it would help us a lot. It would free up so many hours so we could just focus on other things. Just at the moment, machines aren't good at the moment because people need jobs. Because without these jobs, people can't survive at the moment.
If you think about it, though, a lot of homes would just need like a 3D printer. You just print everything you want.
I mean, the possibilities are absolutely endless. You know, they've printed livers recently. You know, as I said before we started this chat, they've just invented a robot dog. So we're clearly getting to the point where we're inventing stuff we clearly don't need. So, you know, we're getting to the point where we're just inventing things for the sake of inventing things, you know. So the possibilities are utterly endless. So, I mean, the trouble is that money isn't. Money is effectively stopping us from going into our full potential. You know, you've got some of the richest companies in the world now, mainly to do with space and space exploration, like SpaceX and stuff, actually actively saying we might not be living in the best type of society. Now, for somebody like that who has everything invested in finance to say something like that clearly means quite a bit, considering that we are in a position where we have the ability to, we grow enough food to feed the world. We do currently. They're just the rest of the world which can't afford it. We have technology that can do the most menial jobs without us having to do it. So technically, human beings could become the creative workforce, and then machines could do the rest, could do the sort of hard task labor of cleaning the streets, doing all the rest of it. So human beings could actually do what they want. The trouble with that is that once you start talking that way, you can't run a society like that if it's orientated around money. It just doesn't work. No. It needs to be replaced. That's the point. That needs to go.
But I do think, you know, like the Iron Age, that's ended. You know, Ice Age, gone. I think that this age is dying. That's why, you know, and we are just evolving to the next step. Do you know what I mean? And then it's going to take so much for some people to move past the money being their value. You know what I mean? They do something, they have to have money for it, or there is no value. You know, it's just a matter of a simple switch of going on in people's heads. Once that happens, society will evolve. But hopefully for the better, and not, you know, like you were saying, just two corporations who control everything and the thought police and shit.
Yeah. I mean, you see, for me, it's not so much people's minds are going to switch on. I think it's going to be a generational thing. Like, look at, for example, on an age group. I mean, you've got, you know, the next generation, my generation, for example. I'm 22, and the majority of people my age now, racism isn't something just to talk about a topic that, you know, everybody knows about. I mean, it isn't something that is irrelevant to them. They don't see race anymore. It's the generations before them and our grandparents who still view racism and make sure that racism stays within society. But as kids get older and as more generations come in, you're going to see all of these old values leave. And it's just a matter of time before these decadent values leave, as well as, you know, so this idea that we've been implanted saying, you know, well, this is the best you're ever going to get. You know, yes, in Britain, we're quite lucky to the fact that we can have this chat, for example, without getting whipped 1,000 times like the guy in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. You know, just because we've got these basic freedoms doesn't mean we can't improve things. Which is why, just because money for a time allowed people, because capitalism wasn't necessarily always bad, you know, it did give a lot of people the edge, and it did, for a time, do quite a lot of good things for the world. It also, at the same time, did a lot of bad things for the world. But I think now it's just gotten to a point, it's hit its expiry date, and we just got to gradually move on to something bigger and better. That incorporates the whole world, not just nation states.
Yeah, we are coming to an end of an era. You are right about that. We're definitely coming to the end of an era. And technology, like the mobile phone and the computer, it's bringing it even closer. Like I've always said, like the mobile phone is the human atom that connects all humans' brains. Like it is the atom that connects humanity, mobile phones and technology. It's all about how we use that technology. Obviously, we're using it as activists for good. Like we're using it for a good purpose. But people are just so sucked into the virtual world for the wrong reasons that it's just a bit slow.
But it's like a library, isn't it? It's like it's the new book. You know, years ago, some people would go and hire out a, love story. Other people would have gone and got politically activist books. You know, society has always been made up of different people. It's just when enough of us think like we do, we can make a difference. And I think a lot of people do when they're sat and they actually think about it. They just feel very alone in their opinions, probably. You know, in the old days, you'd have talked to your neighbour over the fence. At the workman's club, you'd be over at the bar putting the world to rights, and if your employer annoyed you, you'd be out all together, protesting to get what you wanted. That kind of community's gone now.
I think that's the problem that's a blessing and a curse of the internet, I think, because the internet, for example, I mean, it allows this to take place. You know, we're all in different parts of the UK, but we still can easily chat. The only problem with that, of course, is that yes, you get connected to people that are of a similar wavelength than you, more similar than people in your workplace, for example. The trouble is that geographically, you're still further apart. So say, for example, I was in America and you were in Lithuania and you were in somewhere else. Yes, we all got similar ideas, and yes, we can come in on the internet and talk about it, and we become more and more closer on that regard, but we're still going to be physically further away from each other. So it's not like we could casually create a movement or do something like that quickly, but because we're all free in very, very different places. So I think that is, as you mentioned, sort of a blessing and a curse in a lot of ways. But I mean, it is like a massive library, or it's just a mind of humanity in a lot of ways. You know, every thought that humans have ever had or are having is now on the internet, either in Facebook, Twitter, Wikipedia, whatever else, blogs, personal. You know, it's the mind of humanity.
Consciousness.
Amazing.
It is amazing. But if you look over the time, like there was somebody who was in a coma for like 50 years, and they woke up and somebody gave them a mobile phone. They're like talking into it like that. Hello. You know, can you imagine what it would be like? You know, if you go back to, not that long ago, 50s, and now what we have. I mean, if you took some of this technology back then, they'd be like, you're a freaking alien.
They'd freak out. They would freak out.
I mean, and then when it's invented, you look at it and you think, how come we didn't do this earlier? The 3D printer. It seems...
It's one of the things that is obvious, but it's hard to dislike. Oh, I saw on the 3D printers I saw one of them printing a wrench, for example, on YouTube. Yeah. And the journalist, right, he couldn't believe it because he had a wrench, and the guy was like, "You want to print that?" And he's like, "All right, yeah, let's do it." So he said, "Do you want to change any of the colors?" And they made the little wheel, what's it called, pink, and they made the rest red with a little green bit at the end. And I was like, "You can't print that and it still work." And he printed it. Obviously, they cut into it because it takes quite a while, and it works. They showed it, they made it work, and all the rest of it. And it was this weird pink, red, and green wrench, which worked just as well as a normal wrench. But it screws with your mind because you look at it and you can see it being printed, but for you, because you've been for so long knowing that that's impossible. Because effectively, it's like materialized. It's like something out of Star Wars or Star Trek, where they just materialize food, drinks, and whatever else.
But they said that with faxing. With faxing, a lot of the old people, they couldn't fathom it. I draw it here, it goes to America. How? And then when you actually look at it and you think, this is, how did it take us so long to come to this? Because they can print everything, can't they? Houses,
There's a guy in Holland who's printing his house. You
Yeah.
can't print the whole house. He's printing the walls first. Then he's printing the roof. Then he's gonna print the internal stuff and the foundations and all the rest of it. But he's getting there. It's gonna take him a while, but he's getting there. It's the first house to ever be printed, but the possibilities are endless. And what's funny though is that a lot of this technology you can see in old sci-fi movies. You know, it's just ever so slightly different. You know, again with this printing thing, that was in Star Trek and Star Wars. Both of them had this kind of printing versions of technology.
Replicator in Star Trek.
Exactly, yeah. So that's the point. You've got that technology in there. And it's like, for example, the creative minds sort of turn it into a film, a book, or something else, and then a tech company or whatever else would get together and say, you know what, that's actually a pretty good idea. Why don't we do that? Something like that. Because you know, obviously, the Americans screw it all up by the first thing they start printing is guns.
I know. Do you know what? So honest. My first thought about when them guns started getting printed, I just thought this kind of like if there was ever a violent revolution, it would work out for the people, that would, wouldn't it? Like if there was ever a violent revolution.
I would agree with you if it wasn't for the fact that the majority of people that were printing the guns were racist rednecks.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the fact that they were very, very ignorant individuals printing those guns, and it would probably have misconstrued ideas which most of us wouldn't agree with. You kind of wonder, well, but then America is just. It's not the problem of gun control, because I don't believe in gun control in a sense, myself. I believe in education, in the sense that if you educate the people and teach them what guns are actually for and not just pump them full of movies thinking that guns are amazing, then people start to treat them differently. You know, you don't walk around with like a pistol thinking that you're Clint Eastwood. You're not. That's not how it works. If you pull a gun, you will kill them. That person is dead. You're going to go to jail. You know, but most of Americans don't think like that. Switzerland, for example, has a relaxed gun legislation.
Yeah. It does.
And they don't shoot each other on a regular basis.
No.
Yeah.
But with all the money and things, it's really holding us back. I mean, how many housing estates are they going to continue to build in the fake guise of Victorian townhouses when we have like the tiny house projects? You've got eco houses, you've got like flat pack houses made of wood that are just nicer looking, that's different. We've got so much technology, and I think that because everything's about profit, that we don't see all of this. I mean, did you see that link for Japan building the underwater city?
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I mean, that was amazing. They were building a city for like 5,000 people underwater.
But you see, again, that makes perfect sense because most of our planet's covered in water.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a fantastic place to live.
And
I just think I'm sick of seeing houses the same. You know, my house is a new build, and it's built shit. You can hear every bit of noise that the neighbours make, and it's got no garden. Right, let's move on. Every new build estate looks the same in every single town. You could be in any town, in any place. They all look the same. There's no character. They're just boring. You know?
Well, that's the problem of all those planning permits and all the rest of it. I mean, if they had general guidelines that just let people build whatever they want, imagine what weird contraptions will come out of that.
Well, funny you should say that.
Huh?
Funny you should say that, because the place I used to live in, Redditch, all the houses in the street were sold off in plots, just the land, and everybody got to build what they wanted on the land. So it had all different sorts of houses. Now they were probably built in the 70s, so you got like one of the first bungalows with an underground like bit. And you know, like the bedrooms in that underground, it wasn't just one layer and things like that, and the whole street was character. And I just thought that was so much better, because who wants to look like their neighbours?
Exactly.
It's all to do with money again.
me personally, if I was to build a house, I'd build a house that looks like a spaceship from Halo. That'd be epic. Like the Millennium Falcon. My front door is the little flatback come down, and then my car would be an X-wing. But unfortunately, it's not legal to drive X-wings about.
Well, not yet. Give it a couple of more centuries, maybe. But
I mean, I think the tiny house.
It's only a matter of time before we start to conceive spaceships that are the size of Star Wars stuff. But sorry, you were saying?
The tiny houses, I think, are a solution.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I don't agree. In a sense that we've got so much land. I think the tiny house solution is a temporary one in the sense that it's a solution that is fine for the time being because we have to adhere to the issue that money isn't going to leave us anytime soon, or at least in the next couple of generations. Well, with the exception of Iceland, probably.
I think somebody, rather than living in a flat, a nice little tiny house with a bit of garden, or the homeless, or students, like you say, in the meantime.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's a good term solution for the time being. But I think the problem I have is that the issue of money is the problem because we're moving towards a society where everybody's interconnected. Everybody can contact people from any part of the globe. You know, humanity doesn't adhere. I mean, nobody consider themselves. I mean, in a lot of ways, people don't consider themselves British, French, Italian, whatnot anymore. A lot of people don't even think about. You know, back in the day, your nationality was your livelihood. It was who you were. Before that, your religion was who you were. Now, people normally consider themselves, well, I'm human. I'm part of this race. I'm a human being. People are starting to think that way. And once nations and so forth come about, what you're going to start to realize is if we do become sort of one united world, I'm thinking very, very philosophically sort of there in this guy sort of thing, the problem of money is going to be something that we do need to address as a society, as a species. But also, I think the problem with it is that once it's removed, once you think of something better, in a lot of ways, you're going to be able to build whatever you want, because in the end, it's human beings will become the creative arm of the planet, of our civilization, in a lot of ways. Because there's no reason why we can't build what we want, in a lot of ways. Because we have the resources. The resources are in abundance in a lot of ways on this planet and in space. So if we ever let go of the fact that we can't afford something, because saying that you can't afford something is just a human concept. It doesn't exist in nature. If the resources are there, you can do it.
Yeah, we do. We do have the resources.
When money first started, it was just like a form of credit, wasn't it? It was like an acknowledgement of, that somebody had given you something. You could create your own money and value until, like, the state took over it. You just write an IOU.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, money, I can understand, money was a good concept at the time, again. Because you think about it, back in the day, people would, and again, because of the lack of technology and whatnot, if you were a lawyer and I was a butcher, I'd walk into your office with a pig and say, I need you to fight this case for me. Here's a pig that you can kill for your Sunday meal. Will you do it for me, or will 2 pigs suffice for your case? That's just impractical. Walking around with a load of the stuff you produce to give to people and barter. It just didn't make sense. So at the time, it made perfect sense for if you were going to sell something or do it, you just exchanged this little currency, because it was almost like the state said, we give the bearer this amount of money or this amount of gold or silver, in our case, in Britain, in exchange for that good. So instead of just walking around with a load of pigs to give to your lawyer, to give to your grocer, instead of giving them a load of meat as a butcher, you'd give them money, which is a lot easier to carry around. And that's when it effectively sort of picked off, because it was easier to carry around. And somebody just got the idea of printing, the notes instead. I mean, if that person or whoever it was that thought of that, thought instead of using paper, they decided to use nuts. We'd all be coveting nuts now, cashew nuts. We'll all be coveting them. It's not the money it is. It's just that issue, that specific item that we decided to make as a form of.
It used to have the value of gold or silver. Now it has no value, and debt is money as well. Debt creates money.
Well, that is the value of money. That is the value of money nowadays. It's not gold anymore. It's not silver. Because if you walked into Barclays Bank, which is your right to do, and you hand them a £20 note and say, "I want my £20 worth of weight in silver, sterling silver," they'll sort of look at you and think,
Call the police.
"Where are you from?" You know, we don't do that anymore. But back in the day, you could do that. You could walk into a bank and give them your money, and they would have to give you silver. But back in the day, they had the silver in the vaults to back it up with. Now, as you quite rightly said, it's all backed up by debt. And obviously, as you said, as I think you've said maybe before, debt's created by selling and buying property. And a bunch of other stuff as well, of course.
Well, it is. It's the crutch to the whole system, isn't it? They get us in debt, so we work harder and strive to get everything. Everything would collapse without debt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people sometimes say about going back to how things were simpler, but it's not that far back in time. I'm thinking like the 60s, people didn't really have debt, and they grew a lot more their own stuff than they do now. They were a lot more self-reliant. So even if just going back to the 60s, they still had the technology. They were just greener in their ways. But having said that, we don't have the time now because we're too busy working, and it's all to do with quality of life, really, isn't it? Beyond work.
Which is sad because we've got the technology now more than ever before to improve our quality of life. But for whatever reason, we're making our quality, or rather, the people are making our quality of life worse than better. Now, for me, I don't think we should look to the past. I mean, we should always look to the past for the future in a lot of ways. Because as I said before, the past is almost like a crystal ball. You can see what's going to happen in the future if you look at the past. But in a lot of ways, we do have to look forward in the sense that we shouldn't wish to go back to a time. Because we've got technology now that we didn't have in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Because of that, we have the ability to do something more, to be better, to live well. The problem, I think, is that we should have evolved into something else by now already. During the 60s, 70s, and 80s, we should have been moving on to something else. But for whatever reason, capitalism can't let go, probably because it benefits people with such immense amount of power to keep the system the way it is, that we're effectively being stopped from evolving.
Yeah.
And that's why we're currently stuck in this kind of crux, because we're now damaging our own system, because we're not allowed to grow, we're not allowed to expand.
And capitalism needs expansion.
Exactly.
What are you going to say?
What do you? Matteo, like, what do you believe our next step of evolution is? I'm just curious.
Next step, what? The economics. In regards to economics, or just the way society potentially could be shaped?
Society, humanity, our brains. Like, what do you think our next step is?
I mean, I personally believe that the way we're going to be shaped, it's not an if, it's just a matter of, I think, a when, is that eventually we're going to get to the point where corporations are going to get too big. They're going to end up falling upon themselves because, I mean, forcing us to go buy stuff consistently for random holidays that are starting to mean less and less and less, like Christmas, Easter, and so forth, which are starting to become almost irrelevant for a lot of people, and it's just becoming worse and worse. Shops and so forth can't operate without these holidays to boost their income. So eventually, I think that those companies are going to implode upon themselves. And what we're then going to realize is that we need to move away from money. Now, countries are already doing this. Iceland is already aiming for a moneyless economy. Now, I very much like the whole Jack Fresco resource-based economy thing. I think that is the way forward. I think that is where we're going to be heading. Hi, Kiki. I think that is the way we're going to be.
Hi.
And personally, I think that the next step from where we are now to the future, I think, is that kind of resource-based, moneyless economy ideal. We're going to be moving forward, and I mean, I've got you can imagine how the world would look like in that regard. I mean, could you imagine, for instance, right, all the people that wanted to go into fashion designing clothes, but couldn't because the industry is so saturated with the people that know somebody in the business that are rich so they can create their own clothing brands. These are relevant. I make crap. People buy it because it's advertised and forced into your face. Imagine if all those people now, through the state, because the state could be our administrative arm, own the factories, etc., would then say, okay, I want to design these clothes. They send them into the state, and the state makes them for them. And then suddenly you're going to get so many different clothes, weird things designed. Car companies are going to be the exact same thing. How many people wanted to design a car but couldn't because of the industry? How many people want to design a plane or design houses but couldn't because of the industry? You're going to see such a flourish of creativity that will match and beat the Renaissance that you can't imagine. the world's going to look absolutely incredible. But the first thing we need to do is effectively remove, I think, money and the way it works. Because yes, it was working for a time, but at the moment it just doesn't. And this answer of people of nobody's going to work anymore, I think it's complete rubbish. Because we all do things that we like, that we don't earn from. They're called hobbies. People just do that instead. You know, people design clothes, they do it as a hobby instead.
Hang on.
Some people like to be pirates. Fuck.
Kiki's here.
I couldn't keep a straight face.
Matteo, I was trying to really concentrate on what you were saying then. I did try.
What's going on with Matteo? He's got glasses on. What the fuck?
Lightning.
If I was on my laptop, I could do the same.
What paradigm am I in?
You're in.
What have I just
Yo,
done?
ho, ho, and a bottle of rum.
I get jealous. I can't play with these things. Monocle.
Sorry, we're playing with the.
Oh, the cat in the hat. The cat in the hat.
But yeah, so as I was saying,
Sorry. Carry on, as you say.
but you know, as I was saying, I think to answer your question, I think it's I just envision a world where money won't be an issue, money won't exist, and we do everything goes through the state. You know, it's not like it's not like the government's not gonna exist. Governments are gonna exist, and they're gonna be bigger, because the government is the people are the government. You know, it's not like we're separate. It's not like we've got to fight against them. That's our administrative arm. We are the creative arm. We do the decision making, and then the government will act upon that decision. That's what it's supposed to be, and that's what I think it will. But it's not going to be in Britain. We're very unlucky because Britain and America are going to go downhill very, very fast because we're too capitalist, we're too orientated, we've got too much invested in that to move anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
We're just not going to go anywhere else from that. But if you look at, for example, Europe is moving forward from that.
Sorry, I can't fucking take it.
It's monocle.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Matteo, you really suit the cat in the hat.
Thank
You
you.
killed me with that hat, Matteo.
That is brilliant. That is fantastic. I can't do. I feel jealous. I haven't got this technology. It's
You
not
need it on
fair.
the laptop.
I know. My laptop's being sent off to be repaired, so I will troll you guys.
Oh,
It's
somebody at the
brilliant.
door.
This is brilliant. So what are we discussing?
We were discussing about the future and how we might evolve.
Okay.
We said that
Yeah,
we thought we were, outgrowing this phase and
Yeah,
going into
I
the next.
think it's the end of the capitalism age, the era. I think it's the end, and that's what we're seeing.
I think we're seeing a fight between different companies. You know, the richest companies in the world are effectively fighting against each other.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're seeing. We're seeing the aftermath of that. You know, it's not like where we've got this idea of, and I don't believe that we've got this idea where all these companies are sort of trying to plan how to rule the world and they're all in cahoots with each other. I don't think that's true. I think what we're seeing, and if that was true, the world wouldn't be so messed up because they'd want the world to survive because they want to stay leaders of it. But I think what we're seeing.
But we've got too many people now.
Huh?
We've got too many people now. They could, with the technology, they could have like 50% of the people and still do all right.
Yeah, I mean it's true, but there is no corporation that effectively.
What the fuck?
Transformer.
I feel like I've had an early smoke.
I had to get involved. I felt left out.
Right, fine. Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
go on.
let's
We're on about serious business.
Right,
Thanks.
we're doing this, yeah?
But what were we saying?
don't know.
But I don't know.
Hold on. I think it was something to do with companies, blah blah blah, evil, evil, evil. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we could have 50% less of the world.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I think that's true. But I don't think any government owns that. Not government, sorry, because governments are relevant at the moment. I don't think any corporation has that power.
Oh.
They would have done something about it by now. Although, however, I do believe that companies are preparing themselves for said, not collapse, because I don't think it's a collapse, but it's more of an adjustment.
Well, you know, like vaccines. Let's talk about vaccines, right? I know that, right, regardless of whether you think they're safe or not, take that completely out of the equation. Is it right to force medicine on us? Is it right to say that you don't have a choice?
Well, look at that lady with learning difficulties forced into sterilisation. Surely that's a human right issue. I can't comment because I don't know the case. It is a human rights issue, but you could maybe see, I think she had 6 kids already, didn't she? Yeah, she did, but is that still us who should be making that decision?
Is it fair to knowingly bring children into the care system?
Mm-mm.
It was, I mean, like I say, I don't know the case. Did she have the mental age where she could make the decision to
What about that she could have scheduled visits for contraception or something? I'm not sure. Some kind of help. But sterilisation, that's so severe. It's so final.
I know it is.
Is she able to fund the kids herself? I mean, what's the situation? I mean,
She's got 6 children that have all, because of her learning difficulties, they've taken them all off her, and they'd all gone into the care system already.
But they do have sufficient things and advice for those with Down syndrome. So what was wrong with using that same technique for this woman?
Maybe they tried it, and that's why she'd got pregnant so many times.
Okay.
I don't know. It's that's what I mean. I mean, how was she getting? Oh, I don't know the case. I mean, was she just like slightly?
I don't know. Did they all go into care then?
Yeah.
Was that her?
I mean, I don't think that anybody should be sterilised.
No.
I mean, just on a more ethical point of view, I don't think the government or anybody should have the right to sterilise you.
But I also don't think they should have the right to give you contraception either, because contraception's made me very ill.
What about just condoms?
Condoms don't make you ill.
Yeah, but she might be unable, you know, like, unless you're going to be in the room when she has sex. I mean, I don't know how bad her learning difficulties was.
No.
I mean, was she unable to make the conscious decision to have sex? Because if that's the case, then you've got to seriously question the men that had sex with her. Because if she's not capable...
And so question the amount of care that she had if her learning difficulties were that bad.
Exactly. I mean, shouldn't that clearly be rape then?
Yes.
All those men, however many men, have raped this woman, so she's a victim. She's not a criminal. She's a victim.
Yeah, she is. And you know, her learning difficulties ain't going to be made any better by having 6 kids taken off her.
No.
The trauma of that
she might have just had slight learning. My friend at the school has learning difficulties, and she is top. She's as, you know, the same as me kind of thing. She's no real different, all right? There's things she struggles with, but she's not afraid to ask for help. I'm sorry. She's not afraid to ask for help. And she's got social services on her back at the minute, and it stresses her out more that she's got them on her back, and she panics, she flips out, she's constantly cleaning her flat because she's scared they're going to call her. What the fuck is that?
It's a split personality.
I don't know.
It's a very hard one, but it's the same with forced vaccinations. I just don't think it's right to force somebody to be vaccinated or to take any medicine against their will.
No.
But you see, again, then there's a problem because there are other diseases in other parts of the world that if you don't vaccinate these people, if you don't vaccinate people in this country, you might end up bringing the disease if you go there. Because you can't ban people. Say, for example, if you don't get vaccinated, what's the alternative? Okay, don't get the vaccine, but if you end up going to parts of Africa, you are not allowed back in because you then could be a carrier of said disease because we've managed to remove certain disease. So I think it's a very, very difficult scenario, and these are the questions that, I mean, you can't really fault government on those because they. From
You can.
You may think, how dare you force this on me? But then on the other side, you think, well, in the larger scope of society, how would they then begin to judge? Would you rather they don't give you the vaccine, but then if you ever go to some place that people used to call the third world, are you then not going to be allowed back in? Do they have the right to say, well, you can't come back in? Sorry, we gave you the option. You don't want to take it, so you're not allowed back in.
Quarantine. The thing is with vaccinations is that these pharmaceuticals, right, regardless of are they safe, do they cause autism or things like that, the things, that different studies contradict each other on. There have been cases where they knowingly, I can't remember which one it was, but they knew that their drug was contaminated with HIV and it wasn't fit for America, and they then sold that to Africa and the UK.
I can't remember the drug.
Yeah.
Formaldehyde. They were putting it in the wells, weren't they?
Formaldehyde
That causes the same reaction as Ebola. It can be mistaken.
They gave that to pregnant women for morning sickness, and it caused a lot of birth defects. But this is the problem. Like this company was told that their stock contained HIV, right? And it was no fit for America. How they can then go and sell it to Europe and Africa, and a load of haemophiliacs end up getting HIV, is disgusting. So when you're talking about vaccinations and things like that and being forced, if that's the case, we have to have a lot more stringent tests and governing bodies overseeing this in a way to make sure that doesn't happen again, because a lot, like with the Ebola one they're trying to bring out at the moment, they're trying to get out of liability. The pharmaceuticals want to rush a vaccine to the market and they don't want to be liable if anyone gets ill. That's not good enough for public.
I think that's the case, is that they need to be tried as criminals. I think we need to have, I mean, if you want to go into the pharmaceutical business and do that, you need to have very, very stringent policies, like you said. So I think if something like that happens, it's not a question of should we be forced to take these or not. That should have never gone to the market in the first place. I think that's the point. So something like that, if they do force something like that, and they know very well, I mean, first of all, there needs to be an independent body that researches and checks the things independently, so that if something goes wrong, they can, I mean, the government bodies should make sure that every single pharmaceutical is checked by them, an independent government body, before it goes to the market. But if it goes to the market and something goes wrong, the pharmaceutical company should be directly liable.
But they're not, though, aren't they? They use loopholes to make it so that they aren't held accountable, don't they?
Yeah.
But that's the same argument then. It's the same argument as tax evasion. We need to deal with it and be stronger about it. Not just say, oh, well, it's a loophole, they're going to always avoid it. I don't think that's the case. It's all about wanting to deal with it, because the government has ultimate power on anything. Anything they vote on in Parliament goes through. So they have immense power over our jurisdiction. So I think they need to do that. They need to be stricter and not be scared of big companies that have a lot of money. And that's, I think, the problem with the government. The government needs to effectively not grow up, but you know what I mean. They need to effectively stand up for the people in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And they get these fines. Like obviously they were fined for doing that. But it's pittance in their great. It sounds a lot to us, but in their budget, in their, it's worth risking a few illnesses for the profit margins.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think all fines should be in percentage, not
Yeah.
in not in what's it called, in figures. I think it should be in percentage. So, say for
Yeah.
example, I don't know, a speeding ticket would be, I don't know, some really really small percentage of your earnings. In which case, it would still sting every person in society because £60 for you may be a lot of money, but for a CEO, £60 is pittance. He doesn't mind parking in the red
Well,
zone because they'll just pay for it.
it's the same as the charges they've slapped on. Me and P were talking about this a few months back, where now they charge a fiver a day for your transactions that are overdraft. Now, if you're, and no matter the limit, do you know what I mean? So if you're somebody who's gone over your overdraft because your £15 council tax a week is direct debit hasn't gone, then that £5 quite a lot of money. If you're a big CEO that's overdrawn and you're getting charged £5 a day to draw out limitless cash, that's a fucking good interest rate.
Because
That's really good interest rate.
That is.
yeah, well, what the bank's done is it's made overdraft a emergency loan.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Kiki's account.
Yeah.
So
Really?
rather than going over her agreed overdraft, she now gets an emergency loan, which is charged at £5 a day. Now that's the same if you take 10,000 out, or if you've gone over £1.
But again, the idea of financing, again, because you know when media, for example, publish, oh, the Sun's been charged, I don't know, £10 million for printing a stupid article and something else. For us, be like, oh, well, damn right, that's the way. They just see it as a cost.
Mm.
You know, for the majority of newspapers, when you see their budgets, they actually budget for fines and lawsuits and all the rest of it. Because for them, it's a matter of business.
It works well for the big guys, but it's real bad for the little guys. You think on a direct debit, and then each day you don't pay that back. So say you get paid on the Friday, and that direct debit bounces on the Monday, and you still haven't got money. What they'll do is it's 5, 10, 15, 20, £25 in charges for a week on one direct debit. You might as well just bounce every fucking thing on that day because it don't make no difference. But to a CEO, if they're going to borrow, say, like, I don't know, silly money, double,
however many millions or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and they can earn interest on that on another account. Surely that's almost like money laundering.
Well, it's making money, but the point is that that's the way it is. That's how a lot of investments work. You buy a load of houses on a mortgage. Even though you have the money to buy the house outright, you'd rather spend as little money as possible on those houses because instead of buying 4, no mortgage, you'd rather have a mortgage and buy 15 because in the end, eventually, you can rent them out and pay the mortgage with the rent, and eventually you're going to have 15 properties instead of 4. So it's all about for them. It's all about manipulating of what they can get and manipulating what they have.
Oh,
For a lot of ways.
Well, that's all it is, isn't it?
So it's all about manipulation. That's the problem with money. There's nothing else to it. It's just manipulation.
I mean, with banks, the thing that annoys me is like if they return a direct debit, they'll still charge you a fee, even though they haven't paid the direct debit.
Whoever's doing that,
well?
it's Matteo, isn't it? It's Matteo.
It's Matteo. Ding ding, round 2.
It is all about that though. I mean,
it's a drum roll. Matteo was speaking. What happened to Kiki?
She just disappeared. It's just gone. She might have got a phone call because that's normally what happens sometimes. When she gets a phone call, don't it?
oh, is she doing her phone as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tomorrow they're doing their OpSafe, their OpReal Love Peterborough.
OpReal Love. So looking forward to that.
Just in Peterborough.
It's I think there's one in Manchester as well tomorrow.
Mm.
And where was the other one? Was the one in Liverpool?
But they're doing face painting and card making for the homeless people with the kids, and then they've got clothes. Yeah. Kiki was trying to get somebody to do haircuts for the homeless, but I don't know if she did. Did she get anyone?
Health and safety, they won't allow us.
Yeah.
They won't allow us to do it, so we can't do the haircut thingy.
Yeah.
That's bullshit, because our hairdressers is always doing a charity thing out in the town centre. The council allow. They just don't like you, Kiki. Your cause.
Yeah.
They don't like helping
mind you, the police aren't going to be so happy at the minute because of our little recording the other night. I think that might.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the fact that the local police officer's just been in a video that's had over 1 million views.
Go on, what was this video?
Well, we were, funnily enough, having a meeting in a cafe about homeless situation and Op Real Love, and we just looked out the window. Well, actually it was Wendy that see it, and she come running and she was like, he's being arrested, and we legged it out there and just filmed it, the whole thing, and it's gone viral. So the fact there was 12 of us, like the wrong people at the wrong time, seriously, we were just all circled round them just filming this dude being arrested. And luckily we'd turned around 10 minutes before. We'd been speaking to him and give him a fleece and stuff, and we turned round to him and said, are you alright for us to film you on Saturday? If you're not, let us know. And he was like, no, that's absolutely fine. And he was like, yeah, any kind of help, blah blah blah. And we were like, banging. So we had his permission beforehand anyway.
And why was he being arrested? Because he's homeless?
Because he was
begging.
For begging, and then we were obviously around him, and he still got arrested, but it went viral, and the police in Peterborough are quite they don't really know what to do at the minute, because this is like a couple of times now they've had these hiccups and they're like, we haven't got the manpower for this. They just didn't. I don't think they thought it was going to happen in Peterborough, but in the last year it's gone up like 20 notches, and they don't know how to deal with it.
But why did it go viral? Was the arrest particularly brutal, or is it just because they were arresting a homeless person?
He was a very, very articulate young lad, and he was obviously explaining the fact that he's asked them and begged them for help, and they've never helped him, and he was hungry, and he's genuinely homeless, and he needs help, and he's been begging, and they just kept saying, oh, it's the pub. This is what the public want. And someone turned around and was like, we are the public, we don't want this, and when he was putting in the van, he was going, read me my rights loud, and they just wouldn't read him his rights. They just wouldn't, not loud.
That's illegal.
They put him in the van before they read him his rights.
My
it's on
God.
camera.
Where can I see it? Where can you see this video?
Just go on Kiki's wall, just look on the videos, you'll see it. It's got like, I think last time I checked, it's got something like over 2,000 shares. I think it's over 100,000 now, Kiki, on your video alone. Your video, I think it's over 100,000 views on yours alone.
Mine's 107k, 1 million. And that, I don't know my digits, I'm shit with digits, but it's 100k. I don't know what that is. It's a lot. And it went viral. Yeah, and it will have pissed Ricky off really bad. I know that. my local police officer, I think he's getting sick of us. He's just not happy. He's not happy. I keep memeing him and stuff, and then obviously I doxed the counsellor, and he got called over something, and we've just doxed another counsellor. And she's had to shut off her mobile and everything, and they've just had enough. I think they're just ready to just go, right, that's it, fuck this shit, we're going. We've had enough.
They're just going to rip into you now, aren't they, as soon as they get a chance?
Yeah, it's like, this is our, if we can't make a difference in our home and our community, what can we do? If you're, the government should be afraid of us. It shouldn't be the other way around. We should be putting pressure on them 24/7, and we do. All the time. It's just it's been a fun and hard work.
I do like the
She's off
doxing.
to-
I think that's quite a good solution. Dox him.
Yeah.
She does. Then afterwards, they're up the hospital,
Yeah.
which they're not too happy there either, are they?
No, they're not happy.
God.
They're really not happy. They've stuck us on this scrubby bit of land, right? And have told us not to move from there or we'll be arrested, obviously, because it's private property. Well, they'll get the bailiffs. And we're in support of the NHS, so it's really weird. But then Peterborough Hospital is the most indebted hospital in the UK. So, yeah, so they're going to have issues with people because there was apparently some woman that went crazy in an animal suit. It wasn't me. Went crazy in an animal suit in the
Wearing an animal suit.
I know, but it wasn't me. But she did, and apparently they're a little bit nervous since then. So they're on edge. They're on edge on what we're going to do. And obviously, everybody in Peterborough knows what happened at the Gaza demo, and they're all a bit fearful there's going to be a repeat of that. And yeah.
Of course, sorry, there won't be a repeat of that. Tomorrow there will be none of that because, like I said to you, Keith, there's no tensions like
Well,
there were.
if they didn't bring their
Gaza,
pepper
obviously.
spray, it wouldn't happen in the first place. Who brought the weapon?
Good
Pepper spray.
Yeah. It's like, and the bad aim.
Tomorrow will go fine.
There's another hospital. It's an NHS one that was privatised, and they want a bailout out now from public money.
Mm.
But it's the UK's only privatised hospital, but it wants bailing out by NHS.
Hmm.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
I think it doesn't matter how much you look at it, the evidence suggests that privatisation don't work.
Yeah, it does.
It's just
Well,
with the privatisation.
If you look at the state
Yeah,
of
it's,
the NHS and then how the percentage that's been privatised over the last few years, and it's not getting any better, so obviously it doesn't work.
Well, look at
Just don't make
academy
it.
and the state of education. Our kids have been guinea pigs for the last few years now. I can't believe we've let our children of this generation down so badly, and that's through privatisation. Academies, they were never going to meet ends. A lot of them are in extreme measures. A lot of them are in unsatisfactory measures. It's an appalling mess, the education system right now. And they want Ofsted.
I worry about any collapse. If, say, I'll use Vodafone as an example. If Vodafone starts losing profit, how much money is Vodafone going to put in my son's academy? If they start hitting the shit, surely the first place that they're going to cut back on is the money that they give to community projects.
Well, it won't be the Ponzi deal that David Cameron made with Cairn Energy and Vodafone, and that, will it? It'll be all ploughed into the energy business, won't it? Ponzi scam, corrupt.
Yeah. I was telling you about that earlier on ago. Go on, Keith. Go on. Tell him all about the Ponzi scam.
Really, what the Ponzi scam? You know about the Cairn Energy thing? The deal with there's Vodafone, Cairn Energy in India, and David Cameron and that. They basically manipulated and scammed and fraudulently claimed Cairn Energy. And there's proof for it everywhere. Now, Vodafone were a part of this, and it was done really seedily, and it was done around, I think it was 2010. If you have it was 2010. If you have a look on Google, there's a whole thing fraud and everything. And David Cameron just basically walked through it. Vodafone walked through it. And when you look at it, those kind of deals, if you're doing deals with people like BNP Paribas and places like that, you're not going to give a shit about a little backstreet academy. The back of Glendale, you don't give a fuck. You've got money rolling in. The less money you give to them academies, the better. They're going to crack the whip on the people, not make it. Teachers, we're going to lose all the good teachers, everything. No, they've got shit like that going on.
Teachers?
Huh?
Going to lose all the good teachers?
I don't think we have many good teachers left.
I was gonna say we don't have many left.
Oh no, there are a couple. There are a couple really struggling out there. I know there are.
I mean,
They're
there are a
really,
couple.
There is
Just-
very few teachers that have gone through teachers training in the last God knows how long and come out good teachers, because this is, you know, we can say it's just now, but to be honest, teaching for a long time has just been regurgitation.
Yeah.
When I was at school, it's just been regurgitation.
See, my daughter's
It's not what you
teacher
know,
was
it's what you can repeat.
It's what
My
you
daughter
can
learned
repeat
about
and later who you
anonymous.
know. I mean, I just came out of the education system, and I can tell you the majority of it was all about the exam. If I ever, God forbid, got interested in a part of history that wasn't in the exam, they would make sure that I wasn't interested by the end of it. And what that does is it kills your interest in it.
Yeah.
My son, right, is doing engineering, and he started off his first year, he was doing really well, and then that teacher left because he got a job abroad teaching, and then another teacher took off, and they lost all the work that they'd done first year. They had to redo the whole lot again, and in different classes there is so many little screw ups like that I just think that they're just playing around with people's future.
They lost my daughter's stats results as well. Jars just said that there's that Google want to be a part of all the schools. That'll be interesting.
No, it won't.
I love Pete's accent.
It'll be like, do you know what I can imagine with Google being a part of all schools? Do you know what I'm imagining? I can't remember that program where the house took over and tried to kill the occupants.
I thought you were gonna
That
say
is what I'm
sandals and
imagining.
t-shirts, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing it now,
Yeah.
like the voice-controlled Google monster. It's like, do as you're told, or the Google monster will eat you. It's like your child.
I see like Intern. Have you seen the movie Intern?
I haven't actually seen that yet.
And you know, like the Google office, because it's supposed to be a really fun place to work, and they've got all the crazy things. So they have crazy school full of crazy things, and all the nerds are now the super popular kids.
See,
and all the footballers, they're out. All those that are good outside, they can go to the football academy. We've got a new space academy.
Have we?
Where?
Where I live.
Really?
It's called the Banbury Space Academy.
They've been
It's an
propping
academy.
up university.
School.
Breaking news.
As a university for 15 years in Peterborough. They built an £11 million bus route scheme and scrapped it 3 years later because it wasn't working. But they can't put a university in. It's like you put a bunch of concrete and painted the road red for £11 million and fucked up the city, and then you can't build as a university. Cunts. A lot of them, I'm telling you. Cunts. They all deserve it. This city is really buggered. It's supposed to be the fastest growing city in the UK. It's also got like the highest rate of suicide in the UK nearly.
Yeah.
So it goes to show, doesn't it, this capitalism and consumerism. It's like, yeah, it's working well.
And some of the people somewhere.
There's been some break.
I think
Did
that's
you see
what.
Did you see what Kieran put in
No.
chat? It says, well, about the NHS march tomorrow. It says, well, the staff have been told we are here to cause trouble and not to partner us as we may affect them. Police have said we are low risk, but beware, report anything to the police as they will be watching us.
Beware, we are armed with heart-shaped balloons. Rah!
Hopes of mass destruction.
Whoa.
But they said it's capitalism, isn't it? I mean, schools could have so much in them, and really,
They should, but they don't.
yeah, and really engage.
The possibilities, raising.
You know what I mean? Like when they do science at school, why aren't they out lifting fingerprints and doing a bit of forensics and, you know, real stuff engaging kids?
Put in tapping up plants to lie detectors and then causing murder in the classroom. That was a brilliant thing. I would love to do that.
Blowing up fruit. I used to love blowing up fruit. That was my favourite, blowing up fruit.
But you see, a lot of it's all about these subjects that they teach in schools could be so interesting. And there was citizenship, learning how to actually make a campaign or how to set up a protest. I mean, these things people would find interesting.
Well, have
So
you ever seen
none of
that documentary where a plant reacts when they're cutting cucumber because it knows it's a part of it? Can you imagine being in you know, a practical lesson where you're watching a plant react and with a lie detector test? You know, that's just one little thing that, you know.
They did a test, Matteo. I'm watching Matteo's face. They did a test, and they had these plants, right, and they were hooked up to lie detector test. And one woman walked into the room, and she brutally, a few people walked in, but one of them went in there and just murdered one of them. She just went, shush, 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 shush. Right, and then they all went out again, and then they come and did a line-up, right, with the plants, and the plants went mad when the killer come in again.
Yeah.
They were petrified when she come back in again.
Yeah. Now, isn't that something you'd want to actually learn, you know, in class? What about the experiment with water where you talk to it and you love it, and then the other one you just abuse it and you're horrible to it and it goes into
water
shapes?
Yeah. Have you not seen that?
Why are they not learning that life is a part of our everything?
There's another one that they could do, which would be, because they have to take mice, you know, little tiny drops and freeze them, and it might be hard for, you know, to see them, have the equipment, but you can do it with rice. They get rice, and you put rice in 3 different containers, and you just say horrible things to one. You've been really nice to one, and you just completely ignore the third one. Now, the one that's ignored will rot the most. The one that is horrible things said to it, that'll be pretty rancid. But the one that's had nothing but positive put on it normally stays quite reasonable.
And that goes to show that the
is this real research?
Yeah, the fluid in your body. Can you imagine
up.
How the children feel being ignored and stuff, when how much damage that would do to them health-wise, if that is the fact with fluid or things like that? That would be our body as well. How negativity has a physical effect on us.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, you know, it's kind of a given with human beings and animals that move, and you just never think plants are living because they
know that you're gonna, you know, did you ever do that thing where you walked along and you kicked a dandelion head off, right, and you wanted to see how far you could kick it? I feel shit guilty now. I did that a lot when I was younger. They knew it was coming. 5 minutes before they knew it was coming. They knew I was being negative. I had intentions on kicking the shit out of that dandelion when I was younger.
You definitely assaulted hundreds of little dandelions.
I have.
You murdered. Can you imagine the dilemma, right? We are conscious vegetarians because we don't want to have death and destruction, and it turns out that we could be doing the same thing to vegetables.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny? I remember seeing a poster half a year ago. I think it was on Futurama or something that there were meat activists saying and they had a load of like dead sort of vegetables and fruits, and they said, "Stop the madness, eat bacon." It kind of makes sense now.
What do you do? Do you murder a plant? Do you murder an animal? I feel like I don't even want to drink water because I know it may have a memory.
You can't even eat insects because they feel things.
Yeah,
you've got to think of it from this point of view. All life on the planet is a byproduct of sunlight. We've got to find a way to feast on sunlight. That's the only option. It's the only ethical option.
Or then you understand that eating things is just a natural part of the food chain.
Yeah.
Lions eat. I mean, and all animals eat another animal or another living being. And that is a natural part of life.
I read an article a week ago. They've discovered a bacteria that eats electricity.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's called monkeys.
It eats electricity.
They can't turn lights off. They ain't got a clue where that fucking light switch is. They eat electricity.
No, serious.
Sorry.
Theory of I've discovered that feeds on electricity. It's bypassed the old food thing. It literally feeds on electricity.
Do you think
Yeah,
that's an option? We need to plug ourselves into spark plug.
Do you think eventually we'll evolve to that one day? You never know. We could all just
Well, you never know.
one day.
We're losing more and more hair as things go, so.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Can you see that?
Maybe you've got a point. Actually, we're losing all this hair, and our skin's going to turn into a solar panel. Like,
I don't know what solar panels are, but yeah.
No, maybe that could be our next step
what is that?
one day. Is to
That's water
feast on
droplets,
sunlight.
and you say different words to them. That was thank you.
Yeah.
Love and appreciation. But if you say horrible things to it, it goes horrible.
That's beautiful.
We're drinking that.
There's the one about teardrops
What
as
made
well.
of that, though?
The salt content in your tears. You know, when it's different emotions, different types of tears, emotional tears. It makes a different crystal formation in the salt. Like various different formations for anger, for happiness, for sadness, for joy. It makes a different crystal formation in your salt content in your tears. I thought that was pretty cool.
See, that's polluted lake. This is when you say Mother Teresa to it.
I don't know if it's happy about that or sad about
You
that.
make me sick. I will kill you. That's what it looks like when you freeze it.
Oh,
There isn't it?
Huh.
But it's the same as when you see like this. Have you ever watched The Frequency when
I don't think so.
they put like salt on something and they play the frequency through the speakers?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You get
yeah, that's
all the-
amazing. You know what? When I seen that with that sound plate with the different frequencies, because I've looked into that, and with sound you can make objects like obviously levitate, adjust the frequency. You can get another object to orbit that object, and it does make me wonder whether like our universe, our solar systems, and everything could be held together by a frequency that's emulating from like the center of the galaxy or something. Because like you got to look at Saturn's rings, stuff like that fascinates me. How they're so perfect. Because I've looked at Saturn myself through my telescope, and it's amazing. And
But I mean, there's so many theories of the world. You know, you got to think of it this way. It's like we think of ourselves as one entity. You know, we think of ourselves as human. But in reality, we're made up of billions of cells that work together. For them, our body is their universe. That's all they know.
But when you look at
Could our universe be a living organism? And could our planet be a living organism? And we're just a part of it. Sorry, you were saying?
when you look at like our brain waves and things like that, they make the same patterns as hang on, let me turn that off and come back in. What's wrong, Kiki? Why'd you say sorry?
Somebody wanted directions from the train station to Cathedral Square.
Oh. Hang on, let me come back in.
I'll tell you, I just want to go sleep. I need to sleep. I just don't know. Catch your app. Who's took Catch your app? What is this?
Oh, I didn't mean to.
Photos?
I didn't mean to. I was trying to get out of what I was in.
I see that shit.
No,
damn.
it's our brain waves are just like
you've got to go.
galaxies.
Yeah, sorry. See you guys soon.
Bye.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
But I think like it's definitely everything is just held together by frequency. You change frequency, it changes its shape.
Oh, exactly, and that goes to show really what our whole existence is. You know, the universe is infinite. It's totally infinite. There is no, everything is just double guessed, and you know, you've got the whole God side on all religions, and you've got the whole Big Bang scientific side. Not one has thought of a conscious sort of shift of frequency. It is literally down to free thinkers to go along those lines, but anything's possible, and anyone that thinks that they know everything, you know, we could be a cell, our planet could be the cell in the leg of a ginormous fucking whatever. You know, we just don't know. Have you seen Horton is a Who? Horton is a Who. I'm telling you, we could be that speck of dust. It's likely, very likely. It's more likely than anything else that we are just a part of something way bigger.
It's size, like
our body isn't necessarily our consciousness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have made the mistakes of saying that the conscious is the brain. It's not. It's not at all. Conscious isn't the brain.
It makes you laugh though. It's like we don't believe the universe is capable of certain things. It's like we sit there and go, oh no, how can the universe have a consciousness? It's like, hold on a minute, I've got a consciousness, so it's completely possible for it to be a consciousness because I am a consciousness. It's like with size as well. Like people look at size and go, oh yeah, planet's massive, and it's like for all we know, universes could be popping up right before our very eyes and disappearing within a split second. And it could be tiny, it could be smaller than that. It could be smaller than an atom. That universe could have been going on for 50 billion years, and it's popped up within an instant in front of our eyes.
I think it's very wrong to call it fringe thinking, because I think fringe thinking is actually thinking that this is all there is. That's very fringe thinking. It's very way out there. It's like, hang on, how can you even think that this is as much as it is? Like, space is everything but nothing. It's everything but nothing. It didn't come from nothing. It won't end with nothing. It's infinite.
But it comes.
Yes, it is infinite.
This chat fucks me up. You make me feel. You make me feel like I'm on a different planet.
At one point.
Huh?
At one point, like there would have been nothing, and in the nothing, if there was a cell or something, you wouldn't have been aware of nothing because there was nothing. There was nothing below you or above you or around you. You're just there floating. It was only when the conscience managed to become aware of self that it maybe try and expand its consciousness and then spread out into other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you go into the Bible, but even the Bible says that in the way that it says that there was movement before anything was. There was movement before anything was created. You know, I'm not a religious person, but if you use it as, you know, like many things are hidden in plain sight. The first thing was before sound would have been movement, because consciousness would have had to been aware of self to expand enough to make sound. And it would have had to, you know, like when a baby's born, it becomes clusters, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you have all of them cells. That's what consciousness would have done.
But you think, right, how similar to giving birth, even the Big Bang, whether it be, it wasn't the beginning. I don't believe it was the beginning. I believe it's just a part of what we are. But the Big Bang was very much like a womb, and with the elements coming together and create. You think, well, like it was a big ball of fire, wasn't it, to start with?
Right theory.
Huh?
I think movement came before the Big Bang.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean.
They're all just theories, aren't they?
I think it might be part of a creation and part of existence, but in no ways whatsoever a beginning. I think it's just a part of it.
I mean, if you think about it, everything in life is from the Fibonacci series. So you start with 1, then you've got 2, then you've got 3, 5, 8. You know, it's constantly, ongoing, and I just think that that's how it would have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when I think about the universe, I agree with you. It's like it's never ending. Like, I don't know, no start or anything. It's just there. I like to think of it as circles in circles, because everything is circles in circles. It's like,
where do you think it's all falling into?
It's like we've got atoms. We've got the particles in the atoms. We've got the atoms, and the atoms make up a cell, and a cell makes up an organ, and an organ makes up a body, and then you've got the planet, and like planet makes up a solar system, and then the solar system makes up a galaxy, and then the galaxy make up a universe. And then
And that's the thing. That's true though. Like P said, what do we make up? Do you know what I mean? What is it all going into?
everything circles within circles. And the only logical explanation is beyond the universe. There is another circle.
It's all falling in on itself at some point, isn't it? It's all like, shoo.
It's all going to go back in, yeah.
They've got it like in, like the.
And then we'll wake up and we'll go,
Brian
shit,
Cox.
that was a crazy dream.
In physics and that, all of the galaxies and what have you are all like falling into this whatever.
So, all right, let's go on to some really. If we go
no
on to the really, really crazy thinking and going into it deeply, what about the whole way that we are a being and our consciences are the cause of everything? So we basically are one being that is in denial that it is one being. So each section is just still us as a whole. So I am us, you are us, Ek is us. We are all just us, and then we are just a one conscience in denial that it's more than our vessel, that it's more than. Do we need to get over the fact that we're not? I don't know. What do we need to do?
Well, it's the thing that I always think that activists most contradict themselves with, because they spend more time living in fear and reading fear and living in a consciousness that their very pit and belief system tells them not to do.
Mm.
You know, if it is.
Well, this is the thing. I was saying it to Ek the other day. That's what I always say to myself. I'm like, social services, who the fuck are they? Do you know what I mean? And I always think in my head, no, it's not going to happen to me. That will not happen to me. And the same, I got my home education letter back, guys. And yeah, I'm fine. It's good. It's all good. They feel that being adequately educated, and they're going to leave me alone for 12 months. So
see, I told you, Kitty.
All good.
I told you.
I think she didn't understand the fucking. I was worried that it was going to be the whole, this woman's a hippie, she's corrupting her kids, she's teaching them about monarchy, and and it's like, and it wasn't. It was quite good because she seemed quite understanding of what was going on, because obviously they're all afraid at the minute, aren't they? They don't know whether their jobs are going to be there soon. You've got different seats that are going to be taking place at some point. They're all going to be wondering what's, because obviously they're not all Tories, are they?
No.
So
there'll be a lot of shake-up. They're all getting worried about their seats at the moment.
Of course they are. So I think more effort is going to be kind of made to go, what side do I go on? Do I want to make an enemy of this side because I might be, maybe people are really doubting, like the police, the teachers, you know, people who are actually online and interacting and seeing, maybe they are actually thinking, hang on, we are all actually going to end up in one place soon, and these corporate bodies are going to be, you know, we don't know.
I think that it's a you know, we've had enough of the bullshit. It's, you know, as much as we hate it, do we need that sort? Did we need it to learn to get to the point where we're at now? You know, like if life's a lesson, did we need capitalism to get as bad as it did to say that capitalism isn't the way, that there is a better way? Or, you know, if it hadn't have been as cold and cruel as it has been, would we be sitting back on our laurels a bit now?
I think we took a wrong turn. I think that, I don't know, because if you think of us all as one conscious, shouldn't we be able to stop that thought process and change everything with the thought process?
We aren't the same
energy, good energy.
As in the fact that
that's
we
what
all have different life experiences. You know, like David Cameron wouldn't even have an inkling what it was like to have £5 to last a day and to have to cook a meal with it. You know, so his consciousness would never relate to somebody who's has. So in his decisions at South, it's his, you know, the rich people. There was that Tory MP that said that the 1% gave the 99% a pretty good deal, and that's the problem, that they actually believe that in their screwed up little legs. they really believe that they're doing us a favour, that they're being charitable and kind, and that we're taking the piss. You know, they're deluded.
Yeah.
Deluded ain't the word. Like, there's got to be a new word for that kind of mentality.
I do believe that some are psychopathic. I do think that some are really psychos. But I think you're right. There are many that come in and think, well, hang on, I can change things, and then fuck, I can't change shit all. You know, it'd be worse than a shotgun wedding being a prime minister or a president. You're like fucking, you would be walking down. They know that we know the positions these power people are
But they're
in.
happy to be in that position because that's the sort of life they live.
Are they? Do the Green Party know the extent of what they might walk? Do we know the extent of what is behind? You know, we don't know.
What extent does the Green Party know? Because they're a fucking bunch of pussies.
I mean, are they gonna get into office and then turn around and go and be, you know, held accountable?
Their manifesto. They went round saying that everybody should get 70 odd quid. Why isn't that in their manifesto? They come out with all the right stuff, the Green Party, but when it actually comes to writing what their party's going to do, they miss it all off.
Yeah. The one thing I'm worried about with the Green Party, and I'm not sure if anyone's actually ever brought it up before, is anyone ever worried about the Green Party and their views on depopulation? You know, because obviously it is in the scientific world that they say that humanity is overpopulating and becoming a
I think the Green Party are a lot more political these days than they are a green group. I think the Green Party these days are not as anal as they used to be. If anything, a lot of the people on the Green Party I know and interact with are very plastic, flip-floppy. They're not always willing to put the money where the mouth is. So I don't think we're going to see that massive mud huts, cover yourself in shit for heat. You know, I don't think we're going to see that. I think that they are just as, they want to turn what we've already got, like cars and things like that, into ecological kind of things. But when it comes to still shelling out the money, I think they possibly would. I think they'd have no choice. I don't think that where they're going to get the money from when they won't do the things that the big corporations ask them to do to pay our budget.
Yeah.
I mean, you know me, I like the
Because
Green
realistically,
Party.
the only way the Green Party can work is if they cut all financial ties with bankers and hedge funders and basically have their donations from the public the way it always should have been, which means these people won't be rich, they won't be able to have big expenses, they won't have anything like that because the people would actually pay for their employment. Whereas at the minute, the corporations pay for their employment and give them the budget with large donations. So I don't know, are they capable of shirking off the big, or are they going to get shot in the face 14 times with a nail gun? I don't know.
But I don't think that they want this. They're happy with this system. You know, if we haven't got a party like Greece has, you know, to get behind.
No.
The Green Party, I do like them because they say the right thing, but it's not about saying the right thing. It's about doing the right thing as well.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't want, you know, I want change. And I just don't see that any of them are offering us change. They're all offering us the same system with a little bit of tweaking.
No, you're right. And it's one of those things, I think it's trial and error, but are the public going to... What worries me is, say if something like Labour come in and they start relaxing rules on certain things, are we going to see a lull and then a slow build up again to this again and again? Because this is what seems to happen. Do you think we've got to a stage where we're going to actually carry on? Like, obviously people like us will, but we've had a surge of people that are pissed off that their granddad's dying because he's pissed himself in a bed and the care isn't available for him. You know, we've got a lot of pissed off people right now.
What ain't going to stop? That
Do you
ain't going
not
to
think,
stop because
do you
Labour
think they
get
won't
in.
be able to calm certain people for a little while?
No, I don't, because there ain't no money. They've got a choice at the moment. They either cut the corporations and they go after the tax and they do that sort of stuff, or they cut the NHS, they cut benefits, and they take something off as people, or they take something off corporations, and they're not brave enough to take things off corporations because that's where they get their funding from.
Mm. Can the Green Party can they stop that? What
they're still
people
building.
going to turn around when the Green Party say, right now you are going to pay for us? They're not going to see it as a good thing. They're not going to see like, oh, hang on.
We can hope for is that whoever gets in, they change the election, the way that elections happen.
Mm.
I know the Lib Dems pretended that they were going to do it in the beginning, but we actually need a party that will reform politics in the way that people are voted in, boundaries and borders and all that sort of stuff. That's the best hope that we could have for making change. Maybe the next one.
Do you think messages like John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King and things like that are clear warnings that if you plan on changing things like this, we know it's proven now, isn't it? There was actually a court case that the government did assassinate or have dealings. I don't know what the exact.
Yeah, but the difference was back
Martin
then people would never believe that the government would do that. Now, if a high prominent person was shot down straight away, they'd call foul play and they'd know. It's not like in their day where it was unheard of.
But what if they just said it was a terrorist?
Well, why is that man in Greece
believe
still alive?
it?
Why is the man? Why is people in Iceland still alive?
Surely there's got doubt.
Why is
Surely
he still
doubt
talking
in
like
these people.
this week? No.
Are you talking about like a high-profile figure like David Cameron getting taken out?
No. Like, say a Green Party Caroline Lucas went in and she did all this. Say if she did actually try to reform Parliament and she was popped off.
Well, I don't know because I've looked at this. I've thought about this, and what we don't actually see nowadays is these type of people being taken out. And you have to ask yourself, what would the public reaction be to something like that?
Mm.
How would the public react? Would they be angry? Would
they claim a terrorist did it? You know, these days we know that these false flags are easy enough.
Yeah, but the thing is nowadays,
there's a possibility.
Every time anything happens, there's this group saying it's a false flag, and they're all the reasons why.
We're always up their ass, aren't we?
It's
Operation North.
And to a certain extent, you'd make a martyr of her. You'd give her more power in killing her.
Yeah.
I don't think you get away with it like you would years ago.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That doubt must settle in their minds, though. It must settle.
Not really.
Especially when you've got 9/11 theories. When you've got 9/11 theories running around that the CIA are involved and things like that, it must put doubt into people's heads that, all right, if they were involved with 9/11, how capable are they? You know, and that must be quite a frightening. I don't think I would sleep at night if I was something like a prime minister of change. You know, I don't think I could sleep at night. I'd feel a bit shifty. I'd worry about everyone. I'd feel paranoid. We're paranoid as activists, man. Can you imagine?
But the thing is, if the Green Party get in and they killed Caroline Lucas and she was like prime minister, which she wouldn't be, not leader of the party, then somebody, the vice chair is going to take the deputy is going to take the place. It's not going to be the end of the Green Party in their visions.
No.
Unless that
it's the future is so shifty, isn't it? To be honest, there's not a huge chance of the Green Party coming in, is there really?
No. And there's even less chance of them ever making a difference because they can't even put ideas in their manifesto.
I think Green Party will definitely have a rise in seats this year. I do believe they will have more seats, but I don't think they've got any chance of being a part of any hung parliament or a coalition or anything.
Well, a hung parliament,
Aye.
Conservative will be in again because the Conservative get first choice if they can form a government. So it doesn't matter if Labour beats.
We've got to hope that Conservatives don't get a large vote, because that's what it was. Because when it was because the Conservatives got so many of the vote and Lib Dems got so many of the vote or something. It was Lib Dems had to choose between Labour and Tory.
I think
Labour had to
will be in
form.
again.
Labour had to form a coalition. Labour, because the Lib Dems went with Tories, couldn't form one. Labour was in power, so that they would have had first choice. They didn't manage to form a government, so Conservative got in. This time, if Conservative can form a government on a hung parliament, they get first dibs. But at least that's what a newspaper article I read said. It said that basically, so like Nigel Farage has said that he won't do a coalition with anyone who doesn't have a referendum on Europe. Well, we know Conservatives are going to have a referendum on Europe, so if they can convince like UKIP, but I don't think UKIP will get that many seats, to be honest. I think they'll need Lib Dems. I think it'll be Lib Dems Tory coalition again, to be honest. Maybe UKIP with them. It depends how many votes.
I made a personal like, what would it be? Would it be like pretty cool if it was Green Party and Labour? Obviously, it wouldn't be cool, but yeah, Green Party and Labour.
Well, it'd be Green Party, Labour, and SNP.
Mm.
Mm.
And
then the Scottish National Party.
So, you know, Labour started the privatisation of the NHS. They also started the Gulf War. You know,
mid-stamps.
They weren't they also the ones that bailed out the bankers?
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? They're not the working class party anymore. There is Tories are Tories.
Yeah.
I can't see. Labour might say, "Oh, I don't like that what David Cameron's done," but they'll be quite happy to keep it in place when they're in power because they're making money from it. You won't see Labour rush to undo everything that the Conservatives have done.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've always thought as well. It's like, you always notice whenever a government comes into power, whatever the previous government has done, they never really do out about it, do they?
Yeah, because they're quite
Look at Iraq.
They can blame someone
Look
else.
at Iraq. We sit here chucking shit at the Tories for Iraq. You know.
This is what I mean. We don't have a workers' party anymore. You've got the NHA, the National Health Action Group.
Mm.
But you know, we really need a workers.
Would do you think they'll be able to get somewhere in there with I don't know. No, I think it's going to be Conservatives anyway, guys.
It would depend how many people's worried about the NHS and what kind of, because they're all going to be independents, aren't they? So what kind of characters?
I don't know, because you've got to think about it. Because I remember watching all the pre-election stuff about David Cameron, and I will fucking admit this shit. I was actually kind of like tricked by David Cameron. You know, I was tricked. Yeah, I was listening to this guy, and I thought, yeah, this guy makes sense. You know, because of obviously his lies. I went into politics at that moment in time. I was looking into other stuff. And I was kind of tricked by him, and it took my ex-girlfriend's mum to that this Tory man is lying. And I was like, fair enough. And then he come into power, went against everything he said, and I believe he's probably tricked a lot of people before the election into voting.
You know what?
Like, say for people like myself.
Every single politician.
I fucking
you know what I mean?
cried when they won. I really cried.
And it's like, so now when you think about it, I think the chances of him getting into power are a lot slimmer than they were before, because a lot of people who would have voted for him are not going to vote for him now because they've realised, hold on a minute, he's a lying prick.
They're going to vote for Tories, UKIP. A Tory voter, I doubt, would ever switch to Labour. They're just two opposite sides.
I don't know,
It's like
right?
football teams today.
I'll admit to you guys, right? Obviously, you know, my family situation and everything. My dad voted Conservative, right? And he now wants nothing. He's just like, he's done with it. He's just done with it. He doesn't want anyone in Parliament. And that's
But he wouldn't vote for
my
Labour.
dad's very conservative. And my dad's really conservative, believes, oh, you work hard for what you I worked hard, you guys, I don't even have to work hard these days. You know, he's one of them, right? And he's got to a point where he doesn't want any of them, because you're right, they won't go for Labour. They won't go
No,
for
they
Labour
won't.
because it was the opposite side. I think they will be very disillusioned as well,
It's hard to know.
apart from the very wealthy. Obviously, if you own a mansion, they're going to vote Conservative. Middle class,
I know.
they're really starting to struggle now.
Mm.
I bet Miley and
Yes,
Cass
you know.
will be down, signing their little thingy. Ooh, Conservatives, mansion tax. Ooh, frills.
I mean, there's some part of the mansion tax. There has to be like some leeway in it, because say you live in London and you've got your family house that your gran had and passed down to you. It cannot necessarily be anything special to be worth £1 million in London. So I wouldn't want somebody like a granny to lose her house because mansion taxes come in. It has to be like proportionate, because there are poor houses and there's council houses that sold for over £1 million in London.
It should never be done on the property. It should be done on the amount of money that person earns.
Yeah.
Or maybe perhaps on the actual size of the house, like
bedroom tax. I'm sorry, bedroom tax.
There's always losers in any tax. There's always losers, and it tends to be, like I say, that there's people who brought their council houses, and they brought it for probably 30,000, and because it's in London, it could now be worth over £1 million, and they'd be expecting, that would be very harsh to hit them. It was like means tested, where like you get housing benefit. Like your council tax, you can get like a benefit for it.
Discretionary funding.
Yeah.
Discretionary. But what if we were to, we're looking at all this kind of shit, but a real change would be to get the money back off of the companies, wouldn't it? The corporations, the tax evasion, and then we could more slowly take our time of finding ways that would benefit all and
just
make sure
change
people
the law. You can't earn any more than 20 times your lowest paid worker, and watch fucking wages do.
Yeah.
If you couldn't
and
pay
trickle down doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. These big wigs like to tell us that they create jobs. They don't create jobs. Boots will hire for a 4-hour contract and hire as little as possible, and will only take on staff when demand says so. Like at Christmas, they take on extra staff. That isn't Boots creating jobs. That's us spending and creating a need for a job. We work and we create the need for jobs. Nobody asked us.
Do you think if they were asked at the beginning, like when they say about like the trickle down kind of thing, you're obviously at the beginning they're imagining a stacked lot of wine glasses and champagne trickling from the top to the bottom. Do you know what I mean? It's more of a human centipede of shit from the top to the bottom, isn't it? Because even the ones below the top ones get shit
it's not.
It's like shit in the mouth. And
it's like a vacuum at the top glass, and it's just sucking everything back up.
yeah, but shitting it out again after. Like, have the
letting a little
fluoride.
They don't even want to give you their shit, man. They want to give you
fluoride.
If they give you something, they want to take.
That's it. Fluoride trickling down. Yeah, It's like we regurgitated everything.
Yeah, but they don't want to give
It
you
is that
fluoride.
though.
They don't want to give
You need to
fluoride.
paint that P. You need to
They don't-
paint the true trickle down effect.
They don't want to give you
This is an
fluoride,
artist's job.
though. They want you to pay for the fluoride.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
There ain't nothing that comes down from the top that's free. Somewhere along the lines, we're paying for it. You know, when you talk about scroungers, it's them at the top that scrounge the most. You know,
Yeah.
I've got millions in the bank, but I need you to pay for my 40 quid breakfast.
Fucking ridiculous. Duck house.
That's what it is when these people get rich. They just want more, don't they? They just want more.
What happened to the duck houses, guys? When what happened when Tories come in? It disappeared. What the fuck?
No, he got into
But they've-
trouble for it, didn't he? Some of them went to prison.
Yeah, but
Well,
what's
prison
happening now about it? That it's still.
Well, it
happening?
was supposed to have all been
What
sealed up,
does this?
and then it happened again. But they're trying to hide the fact of us not getting to see MPs' expenses. But I'm sorry, right? I don't give a shit what planet you're on, right? I'm sure they get about 80,000 a year. That is enough, right? You buy your own fucking dinner, you pay your own rent, and you pay your own bills like the rest of us. You're on a damn sight more than most of us will ever earn. And why are you putting your hand out? Yeah, if you need to go to Brussels on a business meeting, we'll pay for it, and you can say, all I fucking care. Why are we paying for all of this? Or what job?
And I'm sorry, company cars are for companies, not politicians. They can use public transport like everyone else unless they earn enough. And I'm sorry, on 80 grand a year, you can afford a fucking car.
Well, you know, the car's
I'm
not
joking.
ideal in London. You'd be better off on the tube.
Yeah.
Pedal bike.
But they don't really live in London, do they not? They have one house like out of London, and then they have their like shag pad and brothel in London.
But they stay in London when they're in Parliament. But you know what? They shouldn't be at Parliament that much. Yeah, they go there now and again when there's big things going on, but you're supposed to be looking after your constituents. And have a website, right, so everybody in your constituents can vote on everything, and you have to represent what the majority thinks, not what you think.
And I think you should live there.
Yeah, but I think that if you're like a local MP, you have a website, and if they're going to vote on fracking next week, you have to put that on your website. And like when you vote to register to vote by postal, you've got the same log-on things to your local MP, and you vote on each issue. And he's not allowed to argue his personal view. He has to argue what the majority of his constituents want, not what his party line wants, but the people that he's representing and been voted to represent. You know, it's about time our opinions were taken forward, not party political. You know, in fact, I think they should do away with parties. You shouldn't have political parties. Each person
I was just about to say that as well. It's like, what is the actual point of parties when we've got MPs that are elected by the area? What is the need of a party when you just elect a person?
Because you need the money.
It's like Harry Potter.
But party politics absolutely winds me up. When I see them in Parliament and they're arguing their party lines rather than the national interest lines, it really pisses me off, to be honest. You know, and when they like jeer everything that somebody else says, you know, why can't you just be adult and say, well, actually, that idea of the Labour parties was actually really good. We might adopt that.
Individuals.
Why
rather
do they?
Than gang mentality.
Why do they poo-poo everything just because someone wearing the wrong colour said it? It should be in the
it's not even the party lines.
I watched a My Little Pony one the other day, right? And it was in. We don't need to go there, right? It was in a cafeteria. They were in a cafeteria and they're all at school, right? And shut up. And this new band had come into the school, and this school was full of love because obviously with ponies, friendship is magic, and it's full of love, right? and then this stopped, right? And then this bad band come into the school, and they sang and they hypnotized everyone into believing that competition was healthy, right? And that competition was the way forward, and we should prove to each other that we're better than each other because that's healthy. And it turned out the whole school was brainwashed. It was awful. And then obviously the love had to spread to overcome it. Friendship is magic, guys.
I love how you use ponies as a metaphor. That was amazing. That was amazing.
Right, I'm going to stop this now.